Hey, 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 chicas. Welcome to the Lovelda Show Women of Power podcast. The show where women share their personal power tools, the techniques, strategies, and ways of being which have enabled their business and life success. I'm your host, Lovelda Vincenzi, a female speaker mentor, speaker, and event host on a mission to unleash authentic, powerful female voices onto the world. Well, in today's episode, we'll be uncovering the power tools of Rose Radford. Rose is a business and wealth mentor and TEDx speaker for ambitious female entrepreneurs. Her aim is to help 100,000 women unlock their income and impact potential through entrepreneurship and inner wealth work by the year 2025. Through her private coaching, online programs, and speaking, Rose helps her clients create the mindset and strategy they need to raise their game and unleash their ability to make money and change the world. So it's probably no secret that in this episode, we'll be talking all things money, especially all things related to business women and making money, including an incredibly shocking and need to change stat about the number of women who are not currently creating six-figure businesses. Now remember, all the links shared in this show can be found in the show notes. The only way to ensure that you get your regular fix of this show is to hit that subscribe button right now to make sure that you get updates as soon as a new show is added. Well, that is quite enough from me for now, so let's dive straight back in there and get on with the show. Hey, 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 chicas. Welcome back to another episode of the Lovelda Show Women of Power podcast. Y'all should know how this works by now. We've been in the flow of things for a little bit. So first and foremost, I am always going to say this, even though you've just heard it. If you're not already subscribed, please hit that subscribe button and send through some love, right? If you've been enjoying the podcast up until now, you haven't subscribed, or you haven't left me a review to tell me how you're finding it, I'm feeling a little bit lonely. I'm just going to tell you I'm feeling a certain kind of way, and I would really appreciate if you could rectify the situation. Anywho's, enough about me. My guest today, incredible woman. So here's the deal. We've already had at least one conversation about money, but I can't just have a single perspective around money and money management and how we interact with it. Because as business owners, let's be honest, it is so fundamental to how we do business. Our relationship to money, our fear of or not fear of, or what it makes it feel like or not feel like, or who's going to like us and who's not going to like us. You get me? It's complicated. It's complicated. So as a result, I've brought on today my amazing guest who's a TEDx speaker, ex-McKinsey employee, and now works with people around just this thing, like really diving deep into money mindset, but not on small scale. She's talking about people who be making money in business, not the ones just starting up, the people who be making the dough. So I had to figure out what she had to say. So my guest today is the incredible Rose Radford.
Woo, woo. I love that intro. Thank you so much. Great to be here.
Do you know what? There's something about being locked up. You got a lot of time to come up with intros.
Yeah.
That's going to sound bad. I'm not in jail, peeps. I'm at home. It's going to sound really bad. Rose, there'll be people listening in here who perhaps have never heard of you before, and they're stumbling across you for the first time. And maybe I might have got them a bit excited. And they're now like, who's this woman? We need to know about her. What's this background? So I'm like, where do we start? Because there's so much. Like, I have so many questions about how you got into what you got into. So you're not even 30 yet, am I right?
That's correct, yeah.
Okay, so girl, how you got to where you got to so quick? Because some of us are still trying.
Oh my gosh, it's such a good question. Who damn knows? Okay, so let me give you a couple of the highlights of the last 27 and a half years. There we go. That's how old I am. I've just told everybody now. So a couple of the key things that I think probably fast-tracked me where I am now, particularly around my relationship with money and why I do what I do now, because that's the question ultimately, right? So one of the things I did at university, I was really bizarre at university. I actually went and cycled to the other end of Bath. So I went to the University of Bath, and I spent a good amount of time in a really quite poor area of Bath, actually, completely off my own back, with a charity shop charity shop owner. And it was a woman that was running this charity shop, and I was helping her basically grow the business as a charity shop.
So wait, at uni, you took it upon yourself, not even to stay in your local area, to go all the way to the other part of town to find a charity shop and act as a mentor. Okay, just saying. I'm just making sure I heard right.
Exactly. And there was no real logic to it other than the fact that I just really enjoyed doing it. And I would just get on my bike and cycle across there pretty much every weekend or a Friday or something and spend time with this woman and help her grow her business. So that kind of started from there, I would say. Obviously, I then studied business at university anyway, but everybody knows you study business at university and it's absolutely zero help for you in an actual business context.
I studied finance. Like, it doesn't help you be good with money. I can tell you, it does nothing for you.
Absolutely.
It just means that you now know why it's messed up. Like, it doesn't.
Yeah, absolutely. So finished the whole useless, it was a helpful degree, let's be honest, in the end, and landed a job offer at McKinsey, and I was the only female undergraduate to come from Bath University to join McKinsey in yonks. I couldn't find a single other soul. Like,
really?
You know, when you reach out to people that have gone and worked in companies you want to go work for, particularly from your university, get like the download from them, nobody. Like, literally couldn't find anybody.
You're like, I can't find anybody like me who's going to be able to give me any insight.
Exactly.
Interesting.
So I had to do a lot of work to be able to pass those interviews. I'm not going to lie, like, McKinsey's not easy to get into. So that obviously led to massive imposter syndrome when I actually landed in that role. I hadn't come from Oxford or Cambridge. I hadn't done a particularly financy or maths-based degree. I kind of, to be honest, I chose all the strategy modules at university because you could be creative with them. Anyway, but that put me on a fast track to working with really high-level people within organizations and government as well, and helping them solve their most difficult problems of the time. And I think it just made me grow up really damn quickly.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's definitely been something that's accelerated me. In addition to that, just before I went to university, I did spend 3 months in Kenya, pretty rural Kenya, working with 6 entrepreneurs out there and helping them get like off and started with their businesses. And it was that point in my life, that one of the many points in my life, that I just felt so, you know, when you're just in flow and you just love what you're doing and you don't really care what else is happening, you just loving those moments. And when I finally burnt out at McKinsey, because let's be honest, everybody does that at some point in these high-powered jobs, it's kind of the reality of being an overachiever who is insecure, feeling like an imposter, who's doing their very best to be the best they can, and then they have no other
still
life.
Feeling like it's not good enough anyway.
Exactly. Yeah, massive burnout, on medical leave for 2 months. And it was at that point I figured out, what is it that I actually really enjoy doing? And I went back to those moments when I was 19 in that charity shop in Bath, and those moments that I was in Kenya working with those entrepreneurs that were such minimal resources and helping them with what they had. And a couple of the projects I did at McKinsey that felt really meaningful to me, and I put them all together and realized my heart was really in making money with women. And it was a bit hard to admit that to myself to begin with, because it seems so vacuous, making money. Like, is that what you really want to, like, really? Is that what your life purpose? Just to make money? Actually, yeah, it is. And it took probably about 18 months for me to come around to that reality of it. And there's nothing like a bit of a spiritual download to give you a kick up the ass, right? And where it all came to a head was while I was, this is so damn cliched, it's so cliched. I was in Bali. Ooh, okay, there we go. I said it.
You have some moments in your story that are completely like, wow, that's interesting. But your download came in Bali. Okay, back to cliche.
I know, so cliched. Anyway. And in that moment, in that download, and I won't go into too much of the detail, but the mission statement that came out for me was, I help women attract and steward money for the greater good of the individual and the world. It was money and it was women. Again, I couldn't run away from it any longer. I just had to crack the F on with it. And that then culminated in the business that I am now running, which, as you said, it's all around helping women ultimately unlock their income potential through online entrepreneurship, is kind of where I've landed at so far. And
It's a lot. Like as you're talking, I'm deconstructing parts of your story. And I'm like, okay, put a pin in that. We're going to come back to that. So something you said is when you went to McKinsey and that imposter syndrome. Now, for some people, that would be it. Just being in a situation where you're surrounded by people where you feel like you genuinely have got to fight just to be seen, especially when before going into it, you're like, ain't nobody in here like me, right? So I don't have that space where I feel like there's somebody here who might understand where I came from or what I'm up against. There's not a space here for me to talk about any of that stuff in a way that isn't going to look like I'm just showing weakness. How the heck did you navigate that?
Such a good question. And as you were talking that through, it just reminded me, like, my parents didn't go to university. I didn't go to any like lovely private schools. I really was like in a completely different pond, I guess, to the people I felt like I was around in that environment. And so how did I navigate that? Do you know what? I didn't navigate it very well at all. I'll put my hands up to that. I didn't have the tools I needed at the time to know that some of the thoughts that were going through my head weren't actually truth. And it sounds so obvious to say it now, but since training as a coach, I've become more self-aware, put it that way. And I remember that there was a particular meeting I was in, and I suggested an idea to the group, and the managing partner said, "Oh, that's a good idea." And I genuinely thought she was saying it just to be nice, and she didn't actually mean it. That's how much of an imposter I felt. I was like, oh, she's just being nice to me. She doesn't really mean it's a good idea. She feels sorry for me or something. That was basically the story. And it wasn't until things got really crappy that I actually had to take a pause and figure out what was going on and what was really driving my mindset at the time. So yeah, I don't really have a good answer to that, if I'm really honest, because I didn't deal with it very well at all. It was after leaving that organization that I was able to create the space for myself to process that.
And I really honor you being quite open about that, because I think some things are difficult to address when you're in the heat of it, right? It's just, you can't, because it feels like there's no way around it. I've worked in some crappy jobs, and if y'all are listening, y'all were mean to me. Mean! I'm not even going to take it back. You know, I don't get me wrong. I have had some absolutely incredible bosses. I joined a company and they gave me a company car, and literally within a week of having it, I smashed the car to smithereens. Like literally.
Did you not get fired?
You know, that was an interesting call to my boss in the morning. And then, of course, only I would be, as the recovery car, this is a total side story, but as the recovery car shows up, they are being followed by the BBC for documentaries. Now I've got to make 2 calls. I'm like, so you remember how I called you earlier and I told you that we smashed the car up? Well, I'm stood here and there's a cameraman in my face, like all up in the car. I'm not really sure how I'm supposed to handle this situation, because it was the RAC and my driver just happened. How I kept that job, I don't know. I had an incredible manager. I mean, he made my life uncomfortable for a moment. The first words out of his mouth were, "Are you okay?"
That's good of him. That was a good start.
The first words out of his mouth were, "Are you okay?" And then he went on to say, "It's just metal." But he didn't forget, because about 3 days later, I was working in an all-male environment at a leasing company, and the photos, he emailed them out.
Oh, he really threw you in there then.
You know, it was like a boys' school. Like, they got me another car. They let me go out and see people, but they never let me live that down. Like, they never let me live that down. So I can understand what it's like. I'm like listening to the story now going, why am I even sharing this? So I say that because I have had some incredible managers, but I've also been in situations in which it has been incredibly difficult to be myself within, because it's almost as if I felt I'm always second guessing and I have to show up in a certain way, and there isn't any room for empathy or conversation or consideration. And so I love what you say there about sometimes it's okay to remove yourself. And sometimes it's the only way to deal with it. It's not about necessarily navigating a toxic situation which isn't working for you, which is contrary to everything that you're about and everything that you stand for, sometimes it's about saying, this is not who I am. This is not what I stand for. This is not okay in my world. So I'm going to remove myself from the situation, not because I think it's okay, but because I can't function here.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so bizarre as well, because despite working really hard, I actually felt as though I was leaving 40% of my potential on the table. I distinctly remember saying that to, I think, my mum or something. I was like, I'm operating at 150%, but I'm actually leaving so much of my potential on the table. And that pissed me off. And I think that happens a lot with high achieving type of, particularly women, where like we want to feel as though we are bringing our strengths to the table, that we're able to capitalize on like who we really are. And if you're like a square peg in a round hole, like I felt I was, then it's a nightmare and it drives you wild.
So I love that you left that, and rather than kind of just jump into a completely similar sort of situation, because there's, you know, you got Mackenzie's and then you got the other large firms, and you could have just said, right, I'm going to go to a competitor. But instead you took the very brave decision to say, sod it. I know what I'm about. I know what I stand for. And if I can't see it here, I'm going to create it somewhere else.
Yeah, absolutely. Something else that I said to a couple of my friends at the time, when I literally just left McKinsey with no particular plan. I had 3 months of living costs saved. And I remember saying to my friends, I don't know where I'm going. I just know I need to lose sight of the shore to go and find a new island.
Let me just let that drop in. Oh, I ain't never heard it put like that. Like, lose sight of the shore to find a new island. Chills.
And I didn't have a map. So it's not like somebody could tell you where you're going. And I just knew that where I was at that time wasn't working for me. How I was thinking, where I was, or like the assumptions I'd made to get to life at that point. I was just on the wrong freaking island. So I just paddled my boat and off I went. Ran out of money after 3 months, as you do.
You were like, now I'm just floating in the ocean.
Yes. There's a hole in my ship. There's a hole in my boat.
And I'm not going to be very well out here by myself anymore with my little paddling boat. So what'd you do?
Oh dear. I went and found a really quick contract that brought in a lot of money really quickly. So I solved the problem. But here's the thing, and this is what a lot of people are very scared about. The thing that allowed me to leave that job, and okay, yes, it was scary, but it wasn't scary enough for me to not do it, right? Which is a lot of people, it's too scary for them to even take the leap. The thing that got me over the line and kept me over the line was self-trust. And I say this so many freaking times, but it's the number one most underrated entrepreneurial trait. If you want to have a successful business, often if you want to have a successful career, you have to have enough self-trust to know that the decision that you're making at that time, although it doesn't make, let's say, logical sense to people around you, you trust yourself well enough to make a good decision and to figure it out as you go along. And I had enough self-trust to know that I could make the money I needed to. And that is just, I want to make sure people land on that, because if you haven't got the self-trust, that is just so hard. One thing I know that you can definitely do, if you feel like you don't have self-trust right now, one thing you can do is to just get really good at sticking to your own damn commitments. So if you say you're going to do something, freaking do it, because then you're going to prove to your subconscious that you can trust yourself to do what you're going to say you're going to do. And particularly your self-commitments as well. Commitments to others might be easier for you, but if you suck with like actually doing the things on your commitment list, then like just starting there is a really good place. So yeah, it did take a lot of courage to make that move, but it was a self-trust that kept me going.
So yeah, I love what you say there, because I too am okay with like jumping ship and not knowing how things are going to fall. So I have been that person who's left a job with like nothing else to go, literally like 2 months before I'm due to get married, which is arguably like one of the stupidest things that you can do. Like literally just wait. just wait. It'll be a few weeks, then you're on your honeymoon, you'll be fine. Not me. It was like enough is enough is enough is enough. I've had it. I can't take it anymore. And I remember having a conversation with my manager when I said I'm leaving, and he asked me where I was going to, and I said, anywhere but here. And he looked me in the eye and he said, Lovelda, you really can't do that. And I said, I think you'll find I just did. And that was just the end of the conversation. Like it wasn't, I just couldn't take it anymore. So I absolutely agree with what you say around self-trust. And for me, it's been a journey. for me at that time, what got me was I sat and I thought it's either my health and wellness or it's this job.
Mm.
And when I cared more about myself, that I could sit and say, you know what, nothing is worth this. I do not have to put myself through this. I do not have to come in every day busting my butt and not being recognized for it. I do not have to continue to make this okay by showing up in a space that doesn't work for me, where I'm working really hard, I'm not enjoying it. It's my life. And I am choosing to give this particular circumstance more importance than my health and well-being and what I would like to have in life. This is a life I wake up every morning and I re-choose. Not today. I ain't choosing it no more. I'm out. It was fine. I came back. I found another job. That one wasn't so great either. So now I don't do jobs.
Nah, that's not for us. I swear I'm unemployable now. Like, I have too much of an opinion. I know how to get shit done. And if you tell me what to do, I'm not going to do it.
Doing it my own way. Yeah. I'm loving this conversation. And thank you so much for sharing so openly and kind of vulnerably and raw and authentic, because I think these are the sorts of conversations that as women we need to have, because people look up to people who are in a certain status where they're watching and they see what's on social media and they think, she must have her shit together.
Hell no. Yeah, it's so not reality, is it? Even though social media makes you feel like that way.
You can feel like it for a moment, and then you peel back the curtain, you're like, oh, another human.
Yes. There we go.
Another human. So you really do have the strength of your convictions. And I love that you've done so many different things. You've not come from a background where you had a silver spoon in your mouth, but yet you go out of your way to be in positions to support others. You've found what it is that you're about and you've really committed to it, but you've never played small in business. You haven't gone out and tinkered around things. You've always kind of put yourself forward. So I'm just really curious from your perspective, what it is that you think makes a woman powerful, because this is a Woman of Power podcast, and we need a definition from different people, because I don't think it's a simple answer. So what would be your definition?
Oh, this is such a juicy question at the end of the day. And I think for me, there's two sides to the coin. There's like who you're being on the inside and whether you are building strength within yourself, whether you are creating self-awareness for yourself and doing the difficult stuff, digging into your own shadow, healing the crap that you've been brought up with, whether that is a bad experience as a child or something later on in life, and really making sure that you feel very strong within yourself, because you can't really go out there and be powerful in the way that you want to with really weak foundations. And after my experience at McKinsey, that first year afterwards, I did a lot of healing work. I spent a lot of time with myself and also hiring coaches to support myself in doing that. And I know that to reach my next level and elevate my power and influence, I've got to keep doing that bit of work for myself. And the other side of the coin is, for me, a powerful woman is somebody who has the ability to influence for the greater good. And wielding that power is just to see that through a woman and to see the benevolence come through. That's always just so awe-inspiring for me. And to link that to the topic of money, because this is very, very well linked, right? I often say that money is power, essentially. You can't really get around that money is power. When you have it, like, you have the ability to do a lot more than a typical person, for instance, who doesn't have money. And one of the reasons women struggle with creating money, receiving money, holding it, wielding it, is because we are less socialized to be comfortable with attracting and wielding power ourselves. You might drop that one.
That is a mic drop moment. Whoa, girl, that is deep. Do you know what? It's the sort of thing that has always been in my psyche, but I have never heard it put that eloquently before, that we have just not been socialized to wield that power. Damn.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna have to ask the next question. So how do we socialize ourselves to that? Because people are going to be listening like, oh, I mean, that's a write this down moment right there. That's a write this down, meditate on it, sit with it, have a think about that. I mean, That's a journaling question.
Mm-hmm.
Right
Oh,
there.
yeah. Oh, all the journaling questions, definitely. Okay, so how do you wield that power? How do you get more comfortable with that in the first place, really, is where you got to start, right? So I dig into, what does power mean for you? Where have instances in your life where power has been used either with you, against you, for you? And what were those situations, and how did you feel them at the time? Like, did you actually end up with a crappy relationship with the idea of power? And do any healing what you need to do around that, so that you and power can get on like friends. Like, you and power are like bezies, literally bezies.
So you're essentially saying, before we even seek to really leap into a space of wielding money powerfully, like being able to be like, boom, we have to be okay with wielding power.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And okay with that understanding. And that, I mean, girl, I'm having a moment and looking back on my life. I'm like, let me have a think. I've had my own challenges around power and standing up and putting my head above the parapet. This journey for me, even in creating a business I thought I'd call World-Class Female Speakers, then deciding it was about powerful, authentic female voices, then realizing, holy crap, that means I got to live that all the time. It's been a journey. It's not just been, I woke up one morning, but in order for me to continue to step up and step into it, I have had to be okay with continuing to step into my own power. And sometimes doing it, not everybody be happy.
Mm-hmm. Oh gosh, yeah, massively. So I feel like every single powerful woman has had like their like themselves pushed back down again when they've stood up too high, when they've achieved maybe too much, been too loud, been too much in any way at all. I remember, okay, this is such a stupid example, but I entered an essay competition in year 11 at school because I was that kind of kid. And I won the competition. I won £200. That was the prize money. And I had the other girl in my year who was expecting to win it send a letter to the headmaster and say that I bought my essay off the internet. Of course I hadn't. I'd written the damn thing myself. I was a teacher's pet, for goodness sake. But it was one of these things, like, I'm not allowed to be powerful in that essay competition as a 15-year-old or something. And it's things like that, such a silly little example, but there've been so many times like that for so many women where we haven't allowed to stand up, be tall, be powerful in big ways and small ways. And as a result, that does impact other parts of our life, including having money. Because if you dare have money, people won't like you. Shock horror.
I love that the angle you take with this, which is very much kind of going back to, let's unpack what you've made this really, really mean. You know, whether that's what happened at school, jobs that you've had, bosses you've worked with, ancestral stuff, who cares? But let's really unpack for you right now where you sit with this and what's unconsciously going on, such that you can make a conscious choice. Am I hearing that right? Or am I just putting some really, I think they're good words, into your mouth?
They are lovely words. I love those words. Let's keep them.
It's all right. You can have it. You can have them. You can have them. Okay, girl. So so much stuff. So we've really started unpacking power as a general thing, but now I want to make it personal. And I'd like to start to better understand your power tools. So if you're new to the show, essentially what her power tools are, I just define your power tools as, if we were to literally take everything that you've done in life and business to date and boil it down to 3 core things, be them strategies, tools, ways of being, that you would say these things have been absolutely fundamental to me getting to where I am today. That's your power tools. So it's a kind of a mean question, but I got more of them coming. So if you're new to the show, you can listen to the other guests and what they had to say, and you can keep listening to them going forward, because this question ain't going nowhere. It's a good question. I'm learning a lot from this question. So what would be your number 1 power tool, or power tool number 1? We don't need to say it's the top one, but just of the 3, what would be one of those, the first of those 3?
Okay, so I'd say one of my superpowers that is also one of my power tools is my ability to strategically plan and implement. And that means, and I honestly believe that one of the reasons I've created success in lots of different areas of my life quite quickly is my ruthless planning and commitment to staying on the critical path. And by critical path, I mean not being distracted by other shit that doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
And knowing whether it's you just waking up that morning, knowing what you've actually got to get done to move yourself forwards and keeping yourself on that path versus doing anything else. And so yeah, just ruthless planning and implementation. Sometimes you just got to get down and dirty and do the shit right. That'd be number one for sure.
And I like what you say about then remaining very focused on that. Because I think sometimes some of us can sit down and really plan, have a really good plan. And then something else comes up that we think may be better to add to the plan or move the plan around or, you know, put a pause in the plan and come back to the plan.
Yep.
Rose is like, no, you got a plan until the plan's finished. We don't have any other plans. Yes. This is the plan.
You can pivot a little bit, but let's be honest, it's got to be still in line.
So if you think about it like a road, you can kind of, you're in a lane. You can be on the left side of the lane or the right side of the lane, but we're staying in this lane. We're not moving. No. Not the bit that went off to the right. We're not taking that path. We're on this one. We're going to stick with this path. That's where we're going. And until we finish this one, we don't get to do another one. Okay, that's cool. What's your second one then?
Second one would be having big goals. And this sounds really freaking obvious, right? But I see so many people, and women as well, who don't have big enough goals, who are like, well, I'll go for like the 5 out of 10 version, because what happens if I do get the 10 out of 10? Or like, if I get 5 out of 10, I'll be able to achieve it, and then I won't feel disappointed because I haven't achieved the 10 out of 10 goal. And so there's a lot of goals that I set are really freaking scary. I mean, who would have thought I landed a job at like the world's best strategy consulting firm? Who the am I to do that? Yeah. So set really big, hairy ass goals. Let's go for the hairy ass ones. And don't allow yourself to play too small. And sometimes it might take you longer to get there, and that's okay if you've got a big goal, but that's fine. You've got to aim bigger.
So I remember the best story I have around this particular point. I was at a conference and there was a guy on the stage. I think he was the MC at the time. And he was in between, like just chatting between the speakers. And he said something along the lines of, it doesn't cost you anything more to pick a big goal rather than a small goal. So why do you pick the small one? Like, it's not any more expensive to choose big than it is to choose small. Like, yeah, and as a salesperson, I can tell you, it is literally no more difficult to sell a 20K or 100K client than it is to sell somebody in 100 pounds. You would think it would be easier. It's not any easier. It's the same resistance, just at a different price point. It's the same level of resistance with less reward.
Yes.
That's it. The same stuff you're going to have to put in place, the same amount of follow-up, the same nonsense, but with less reward. So it may take a little bit longer. It may take a while to build the momentum. It may take a while to find that audience, to get that group of people around you, to fully understand them. But you're going to have to do that stuff with a 100-pound client anyway. So why not go for a 100K client? Not that I'm necessarily suggesting that that's what you leap to. I'm just using it to demonstrate and add to this point that totes agree. We need to think a lot bigger. Can't get upset when aim for the stars and land on the moon. Isn't that what they say?
Absolutely. And I have a really specific money related example for this, which I'll
please do.
Was it last year? I think it was last year. I had a really pivotal conversation with a well-known business mentor in London. And he said to me, unless you're making the VAT threshold, so £85,000, about 110,000 US, you might as well go back to your job at McKinsey. And I was like, what? Sorry, excuse you. And at the time,
you almost want to say, why do you hate me?
Yeah, I know, like, ow. But at the time, I had literally gone and just recreated my corporate salary, but in my business. There was literally £1,000 difference in it. Mm-hmm. I had gone and done the very stereotypical thing of, I'll just want this and that money. Thank you very much. That's enough. I can pay my bills, pay a mortgage, all done. And he really opened my eyes up to the fact that I did need to aim a lot bigger on the money side of things. And that then led me down this rabbit hole of looking at the data around women and female entrepreneurship, and how only 12% of female-led businesses will ever make over 100K in revenue, for instance. And
that figure still shocks me to the core.
I know.
12%. I'm like, wow.
Exactly.
But is it because as women leaving corporate work, we kind of go, oh, I was on X amount. Let's say I was on 30K. So as long as I'm getting 30K, like I was on 30K and now I'm on 50. So that's okay. Like, Is that what it is? I'm sure it's much more complicated than that. But
There's
12%
many,
just sounds to me as I'm flabbergasted. I'm absolutely flabbergasted.
There's many factors that play into it. And what you just said there is exactly one of them. But some people argue, well, some women go into types of industries and businesses that don't make as much money. Complete and utter BS, because when you look at the industry, so you're looking at the same industry and you're controlling for numbers of years in business, women are still making less money than men. It's like, what the hell? Exactly, mind blown. So all of that to say, that just added fuel to my fire when it came around to, yes, setting big goals, but also supporting women entrepreneurs on unlocking their income potential, because there's obviously a massive gap. And actually within the UK economy, I think we're missing, is it like 2 billion or some crazy big figure from the GDP of the UK economy, because female entrepreneurship isn't as supported or isn't doing as well as it is in America and Canada.
Oh, okay. So ladies, if you've listened to this point, I'm for real. Firstly, you need to get in touch with Rose. But secondly, when it comes to goals, if you can't like set the number, just ask, what if it was 100K? Like, if you can't say it's going to be 100K, just say, what if it was 100K? What if I knew I could make it? Like, just stretch yourself, please. You just woke up that little beast in me, my inner feminist, who's like, we need more, we need better. It's individual though. Each of us has got our own individual responsibility. And so then what would be your third one? So dream big. And then your third one would be?
Cultivating self-belief. And that's very linked to leaning into my growth edge. And at every new level, when you try and achieve something bigger, if you're trying to go to a new level within any career or anything you're doing, right, you've got to load yourself up on self-belief. It's like building the bricks into a house, right? If you haven't got enough bricks in the house, you ain't got no house. So you need to build the self-belief bricks in your damn house so you can live in the nice house at the end. And you've got to look at it from that perspective, because it also shows that it's not just a one and done thing. You need to put one brick on top of the other. And so yeah, self-belief has been a really important driver. And I still work on that right now as I'm setting even bigger goals for this year and next year. It's like, oh crap, can I really do it though? And what do I need to believe about myself to be able to make that a reality for me, and to make that a reality so much faster? And that's very linked to the idea of what I like to say in terms of leaning into my growth edge, which is really leaning outside of your comfort zone, because that's a really big self-belief builder. When you go and do something that you thought you couldn't do, and then you've gone and done it, you're like, oh, I could do it then. And that just boosts your self-belief really quickly. So yeah, those two things together are basically point number 3.
Super. You know what, when you do lean beyond though, you need to remember, because honestly, I'm not going to lie, the number of clients I've spoken to, and they're like, I can't, and then I think, hold up, I've known you for a while and you've stepped over hurdles before, but your focus is on the hurdles you always knock over. So it's not just, to me, it's absolutely important that we stretch, but do something when you accomplish the thing such that you help to bed it into your psyche that it was a win, that it was something, because otherwise we just skim over them. It's like, it happened, it was great, but that was just the one time, but that, no buts. It happened. It was amazing. You did it. Congratulate yourself. Whoop it up. Have a, get a good glass of wine. Have a party with your friends. I don't care what you need to do, such that it becomes a thing that you remember. So the next time you face something like this, you get better at being able to go, but there was that time when I felt like this. I was in this exact position, and I managed to do bump, 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 bump. Because otherwise you're always expecting it from somebody outside of yourself. Because I've had to point it out to a couple of people. There was one person I worked with. It turned out it was back when I did a lot of work with men. And it turned out that he'd created handmade cards and sold them to Harrods 2 years in a row.
Wow.
I was working with this man for about 2 years before I got this. This is why I say it's important we remember those things. About 2 years before I said, you do realize that's huge. Huge.
That's amazing. You've got to keep a list, I find. Sometimes it's literally just a weekly list of wins.
Yeah.
Because you forget the small stuff too, and that's important to build self-belief as well.
Rose, I understand you've come with we come with gifts. And by now, I'm sure there's people listening in who are like, okay, I need to know more. Give me. What gifts did you come with?
So one of the
if you're watching the video, my hand movements need to stop.
So one of the biggest questions I get from my clients, who are typically coaches and consultants, is how do I price my services? They're looking to grow their business. They're getting themselves tied up in knots about their pricing. And so I went and created a pricing cheat sheet. And there is a couple of counterintuitive things in this pricing cheat sheet. So I believe the link will be in the show notes.
It will absolutely be in the show notes. If you're having that problem, how do I charge for my value?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not it's a little teaser into what's in it. How do I charge for my value? I don't know, but what do I look at what's in the market? Then scroll down, find the link in the show notes, click on that, download it. Bish, bash, bosh. If you want to get in touch with Rose directly as well, scroll down. It's all in there. It's all in there, how to connect up. Oh my gosh, girl, you have been absolutely phenomenal. I've really, really loved this conversation, and I've loved the fresh perspective and fresh view you've brought on it. I've spoken to quite a few people in relation to money, but I'm a swear down, girl, you dropped some truth bombs, some reality perspectives I had never even considered before. And so thank you for that. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
But we're not done yet, because there was a lot of stuff we covered today. And there's a lot of food for thought that I know I have as a result of it. If there was just one thing that people took from this today, from everything that we've said, what is the one thing that you would like to leave our guests with today?
I feel like I've got to recap what we said earlier around power and money, right? That was such I'm so glad I had the opportunity to share that. So ultimately, if you want to create more money in your life and wield that, then you've got to get comfortable with wielding power first.
Yeah, that was a good reminder, girl, because I was, woo. I mean, just as you said it again, it like hit me right in my chest. I'm like, oh. So, ladies and gentlemen, honestly, we have more of these. We're close to the end of this season. I'm not going to lie. If you joined us late in the season, go back and listen to the juiciness from the beginning of the season. Subscribe on YouTube, subscribe here, connect in with me. Jump on Facebook. It's all in the show notes. If you want to find out more about what I'm doing in terms of working with female speakers, go to World Class Female Speakers. Again, all in the show notes. This has been the Bomb Diggity, exploring what makes a woman powerful. You've been listening to the Lovelda Show, Women of Power podcast. Until next time, ciao, chicas.